Part 32. Rely on the Emperor's favor and rescue the palace maid. This is the first snow this winter, and it is so sprinkled with such a sprinkle, it is said that the snow is a good year. So it can be seen that next year will definitely be a good year. In the Imperial Garden, several concubines wore mink cloaks, and talked freely and casually while walking slowly. Isn't it? I heard that the Tartars in the north did not come to the border this year, and now there is this good snow, and the emperor doesn't know how happy he is. Noble wrong, echoed concubine Yan, who had just spoken, and stretched out his hand to pick up the goose feather like snowflakes to play. Okay, it's snowing heavily now. Let's go back after waiting for the snow to stop. See what new names we have in mind. Make a lively scene in this imperial garden, and then invite the emperor to come up and enjoy the snow. Wouldn't it be good? Concubine Li Qingyu said that 4 little eunuchs had already carried the phoenix chariot over, and she sat on it, and several other concubines also sat on the phoenix chariot. Suddenly heard an exclamation. Everyone looked back, only to see Noble Wrong's body crooked, almost slipped in the snow, and a palace maid next to her also fell in the snow. So all the concubines couldn't help laughing, and concubine Chong smiled. Why is Noble Wrong so careless? This fall on the snow is not fun. Noble Wrong's face was burning hot. It was indeed she who accidentally almost fell just now, but fortunately, there was a palace maid by her side to help her, so she didn't make a fool of herself. However, the palace maid was carried down by her strength, and was about to get up at this moment. It's just that where can Noble Wrong admit that she is not good? Seeing that she had lost her ugly face in front of the concubines, she raised her willow eyebrows and scolded the palace maid who had just gotten up. You can't do such a trivial thing well. And I'm so tired that I almost fell down. Don't you want to live anymore? As she spoke, she rushed angrily, and pointed to the palace maid who was so frightened that she was silent. Let this cheap maid kneel here, and don't let her get up without my order. Who is the watchman of the garden? Let them watch it well. The little eunuch beside her hurriedly agreed, and ran out to find someone watching the garden. How could the other concubines care about the life of a palace maid? So they went out one by one, and said a few words in the palace of concubine Yan. And gradually, the topic came to Pu Qiutai. The emperor is simply fascinated by that man now, and he hasn't come to my palace for 2 months. When it comes to Pu Qiutai, Noble Wrong feels angry. She is not a concubine of the Holy Family, but she can always have 2 or 3 days of sleep in a month. But since Xia Linxuan has Pu Qiutai, she has never seen the emperor's face. Saying that she has not been to her palace for 2 months, it is just that she is afraid of ridicule and deliberately puts gold on her face. Yes, so do I. It's not a way to go on like this. It's just that I hate that he didn't die last time. Shish, everyone has to forget about that. Why do you mention it? Forgot how Noble Wei was demoted. I also know this. But if it goes on like this for a long time, it's not a way. What should we do? Noble Wrong's complaint was a chance to give the concubines the opportunity to hate the same enemy. And there were many discussions, and some people said that they would go to the Queen Mother to come forward and eradicate the harem demons. Concubine Chong shook her head and said, Do you want to trouble the Queen Mother for such a thing? The Queen Mother never cares about the emperor's affairs, and if she wants to take care of it, she should have stopped it as early as when the man entered the palace. Speaking of it now, that man is cunning and treacherous, and there is nothing obvious wrong for people to hold. So what is the use of us going to the Queen Mother? Fortunately, I heard that His Royal Highness Crown Prince was very bad with him before. And the prince didn't like the 2 remnants of the previous dynasty that he raised. Now the emperor favors him, and it is normal for the prince to forbear. Just wait for the Holy Family to be slightly snubbed, and see if he still doesn't make a move. Although His Highness is a child, he is the most shrewd, and at that time, this man is afraid that there will be no way to live. After the concubine finished speaking, all the concubines thought about Xia Dongming's temperament, and they couldn't help but nod their heads in agreement. But Li Qingyu sneered, "You want the prince to turn against him? You also thought of him too simply. Why didn't you think so? Now it seems that things have already exceeded our expectations." Because she told the matter of Chengxing that day, this was a shameful thing for her, and the concubines were too late to gloat, but when they heard it at the moment, they only felt a chill in their hearts, and they didn't know what to say. After a long time, she listened to Noble Rong's cry. If this is the case, even the prince listens to him and helps him. Then, those who have no way to live are us. The emperor may still have a time when he is a male concubine and the emperor is cold, but the crown prince is the treasure of the emperor's heart. And he is shrewd and clever, which is, what can I do? Li Qingyu said lightly. The prince is arrogant, and he looked down on him very much at the beginning. But now he can't be sure that he will be subdued. It's just that the situation of the two masters in the Yunhai Palace is really unknown. Everyone understands the implication of these words. From the day Pu Qiutai lived in the Yunhai Palace, placing eyeliner there has become the key work of most of the concubines in the palace, but unfortunately, until now, no one has been able to succeed, which has directly led to the dilemma that they now know almost nothing about the Yunhai Palace. What else can be done? We can only wait and see what happens. After the chatter, everyone was still at a loss, just as Pu Qiutai said that day. Xia Dongming's unexpected behavior made concubine Yan unable to touch the end, and at this time, this unfathomable spread among the concubines through her mouth. At the same time, the man who was being discussed by the concubines was walking slowly in the Imperial Garden with the hibiscus and liulu. Looking at the snow in the sky, he also showed a rare happy smile on his face, and murmured, "Timely snow is a good year, next year will definitely be another good year, and the life of the people is finally getting better and better." That is, I heard that the emperor also issued an order 2 days ago, and the local government must be prepared to build houses to take in some beggars and refugees. If there are people who freeze to death, the evaluation once every 3 years in the future will be affected. Farong said with a smile, and Pu Qiutai also nodded and smiled. This idea was still given to Xia Linxuan. I didn't expect that this ruthless emperor would take the life and death of the people to heart, but as soon as he said this idea, he was praised by the man, and immediately went to the imperial study to convene the courtiers to discuss. For this matter, Pu Qiutai was grateful to Xia Linxuan from the bottom of his heart. He is a person who cares about the world, although he has suffered too much persecution and misery in Xia Linxuan. But as soon as he saw that the other party really put the people first, those grievances involuntarily resolved. Huh? What is that? Are there tree stumps in the Imperial Garden? Suddenly, I heard the liulu beside her scream. Pu Qiutai looked forward in the direction of her finger, and saw that in the vast snow, there was a very unclear thing on the side of the road, which was indeed a bit like a tree stump. If it's not a stump, who would dare to cut down a tree in the Imperial Garden? It looked like a person. Farong was exquisite, and after thinking about it, she understood, shook her head and sighed. This is probably which palace maid did not serve her master well and was punished to kneel here. Tisk! Pitiful, such a heavy snow, if her master forgot to call her back. It is possible to freeze to death. Pu Qiutai stopped, looking directly at the palace maid. Farong saw that his hands were clenched into fists, and she knew that this master, who had always been a compassionate man, was calm on the surface, but he must be angry in his heart. So, she hurriedly said, "Mother, this is no way, and you shouldn't take care of this matter. Let's go over quickly." Before the words fell, I heard Pu Qiutai say angrily, "She is a human being. Her father and mother were born. She was fed with a mouthful of water and food. And it was easy to grow to a teenager. I thought she could get married and have children, but she was unexpectedly selected to be a palace maid in the palace, and it was just a palace maid. But where is this palace maid? It's worse than ants. Ants are in this world, and they have to be free. People just want to step on death, but they have to look down carefully. And if they can't find it, they will escape. But what about this living person? It is said that if you freeze to death, you will freeze to death. What is the truth?" When Farong heard it, the master's temperament came up again. "So," she hurriedly said, "that's also a helpless thing. This harem is so." Without waiting to finish her speaking, I saw Pu Qiutai glanced at her, raised his chin slightly and said, "You go and ask, see why she was punished for kneeling. If it is really the damn reason. I don't care, otherwise, I will take care of this idle matter." Speaking of this, he couldn't help but smile fiercely and muttered, "Didn't you make me concubine when? There are only 3 concubines in this palace. Why can't I care about this? Hurry up and ask." Farong sighed, but she had no choice so to turn around and step forward. And before she could take 2 steps, she heard Pu Qiutai say in a deep voice behind her, "Farong, no matter what the reason, you are not allowed to lie to me." Farong was stunned, then sighed again, braved the snow and went to the delicate house behind a row of trees not far away, and came back after a while, and whispered the reason to Pu Qiutai. "Sure enough, it's just a small mistake. And it's not even necessarily a mistake, and you will lose your life." Pu Qiutai sneered, looked at Farong and said, "You said that this harem has been like this since ancient times. It is a cannibalism, right? It's like the big fish eating the small fish, and the small fish eating the shrimp. Now that I am a concubine, is that noble person not as noble as me? In that case, is it normal for me to bully her?" Farong stern said, "Although this is the case, it's just mother. Now you are the target of everyone. If you are uneven this time, although you are happy for a while, it is inevitable that the concubines will not use this as a handle to attack you. In the final analysis, this is the palace maid in the palace of the noble people. How she wants to fall is her business. Even if your status is more noble than her, there is no reason to manage it so widely. In case someone takes advantage of the topic to play. Even if the emperor favors you and blocks it for you, but there is still the queen mother in this harem." "I see." A slight smile appeared on Pu Qiutai's pale face, and he said in a brisk tone, "In this case, you will let people invite the emperor, saying that the snow is very heavy today, and I will invite him to enjoy the snow in the Imperial Garden, and ask him to come over quickly. Otherwise, it will be overdue." Farong and Liulu were stunned for a moment, glanced at each other, and thought to themselves, "Mom, is the master pampered and arrogant? It's only been a few days since he entered the palace, and he has even learned to be pampered and arrogant. That's genius, isn't it?" The 2 of them couldn't bear to see this palace maid innocently die in vain. Seeing that Pu Qiutai was so calm, she actually knew how to take advantage of the situation to save people. And she didn't have the slightest impulse, so they were also very pleased, and hurriedly sent someone to run to find Xia Linxuan. Here the Liulu said to Pu Qiutai, "Mother, this snow is getting bigger and bigger. The front is the Fengfeng Pavilion, but it's good to go there to avoid the snow, and the slave maid will let them prepare the charcoal fire." "No need. I'm right here," Pu Qiutai said lightly. Luliu was anxious, and was about to persuade again, but she heard Farong say quietly, "Okay, you go and let people prepare." "Do you know mother on the first day? Don't know his temperament?" Liulu had no choice but to go. Here Pu Qiutai stepped forward and was about to take off the mink fur on his body and put it on the girl, but he heard Farong Stern say, "This is not good, mother, think about it. If the emperor comes, how will he be annoyed when he sees such a scene? If he is angry with this palace maid, your hard work will be in vain." Pu Qiutai thought about it. And Farong's words were very reasonable. Why do the concubines regard the palace maids and eunuchs as ants? Isn't it because the emperor doesn't treat them as human beings? But if a kind-hearted emperor hears that someone in the harem has died innocently in vain, and asks a few questions, these concubines will not be arrogant and vicious to the point of torturing people to death for a trivial matter. So he sighed, and didn't untie the mink fur on his body, so as not to be self-defeating, and only talked to the palace maid, but the poor palace maid was already so frozen that her body and brain were stiff, and she only saw someone around her. But she didn't know who this person was, and why was she standing here? All she thought about was the happy times she had in the first half of her life. Seeing that the palace maid didn't even answer, Pu Qiutai became more and more anxious, straightened up and couldn't help but look at the way he came, while muttering, "Why haven't you come yet? Didn't Su Riley say that he was light and strong, and he could fly the eaves and walk the wall? He often said that he would fly to the tree with me. Why did he want him to hurry up at this time?" But he didn't have this ability. It can be seen that he is bragging. Farong and Luliu listened to the black lines in her head, thinking that the emperor usually relied on this to win the hearts of his mother. "Well, I'm afraid that I may not be able to get it." "Listen, mother blatantly said that the emperor is bragging." Just thinking about it, they heard a loud laugh not far away. "My beloved concubine actually took the initiative to invite me to come to the Imperial Garden to enjoy the snow. Could it be that the sun is coming out of the west today? What do you say about not waiting for the deadline? This can make me so anxious. I can't wait to fly over the wall." People follow the voice. Before the words fell, Xia Linxuan had already walked quickly to the front, only to find the palace maid kneeling on the ground. He looked at Pu Qiutai speechlessly, and said with a smile, "I said, how could you suddenly have such a good heart, and you actually asked me to come over? But it turned out that you wanted to be a fox and a fake tiger. Your Majesty is the emperor, that is the real dragon son of heaven. And the minister is the fox and the fake dragon power." Pu Qiutai said in a deep voice, and even squeezed out a smile at the corner of his mouth, and then stared slightly, and said word by word, "Now that you know, does the Emperor's Majesty lend it to this minister? If you don't borrow it, I'm afraid you'll kick me away." Xia Linxuan shook his head with a wry smile, and said in his heart, "Don't say that a little palace maid is the remnants of the 2 previous dynasties. For you, I have to take care of it. What is this?" The emperor spoke, so what else did he say? At this time, Xiao Beiji arrived panting with a group of guards and eunuchs, but before he could take a breath, he was kicked out by Xia Linxuan to find the imperial doctor, and ask them to carry the palace maid to Yunhai Palace for treatment and placement. "That's it for me? Aren't you afraid that the honorable nobles will sue in front of the emperor?" Pu Qiutai was relieved when he heard Xia Linxuan's arrangement. A matter of human life was at stake. So he didn't mind giving Xia Linxuan a good look. Because he glanced at the other party obliquely, with a slight smile on his face, he only looked at His Majesty Emperor almost stunned. And then the bones all over his body were itching, and he grinned. "Qiutai, if you often smile at me like this, how about I give you the right to manage the harem? At that time, even if you want to save people, you don't need to borrow my majesty." Pu Qiutai's heart moved, although he was still angry and sad about his identity as a male concubine to this day. But things were already like this. If he could use this broken body to do something good, these sacrifices would be more valuable. But after weighing it, he also knew that this was unrealistic. So he shook his head and said indifferently, "Don't laugh at the emperor. The Queen Mother doesn't care about you now, but because I'm just a male pet who has nothing to do with the overall situation. If you hand over the power to manage the harem to me, I'm afraid that this old woman will definitely get rid of me, the demon who charms the king's heart." Xia Linxuan smiled. "So what? Isn't that what you want?" "It's exactly what I want, if the emperor is willing to spare innocent people, my life." Before he finished speaking, Pu Qiutai saw Xia Linxuan's eyes sink suddenly. And then he realized that he had accidentally almost said the truth that the king didn't like the most, so he hurriedly changed his words. "Then my life can't be lost casually, as the saying goes. It's better to die than to live, and now this life is also free, but it's just to deal with you and be annoyed. I don't want to die. I just want to live well." Xia Linxuan stared at him for a long time, and then laughed in a deep voice. "That's right, Qiutai, you should think like this. I know that this is not your sincere words. Whether you hate me for being domineering or arrogant, but as long as I am by your side for a day, you can only give me a good life, and don't even think about it." After he finished speaking, he hugged Pu Qiutai in his arms, but under the strong struggle and angry eyes of the other party, he finally let go, and only took his lover's hand and went to the Fengfeng pavilion, while laughing. "No matter what, since you said that you want to invite me to enjoy the snow, then you must accompany me this afternoon. If you enjoy the snow, you should be called the prince," Pu Qiutai said calmly, and as soon as the words fell, he saw Xia Linxuan look back at him and said jokingly, "What? The price has been quoted, and now you regret it? Want a bargain? Do you think I'll give you this opportunity? Stingy." Pu Qiutai glared at Xia Linxuan angrily, but he didn't insist anymore. I don't know if it was because he was grateful to the other party for helping this time, or because although the words just now were domineering, he was also full of concern at this moment. He didn't seem to be as reluctant to be alone with this domineering tyrant as before.